recognized
either. You can't just speak anytime you want.
I'm the chair of this committee.
That's not how it
Ms.
works.
Stansbury, you're not recognized.
Madam Chairwoman, that is not how part.
Ms. Stansbury, you're not recognized. The gentleman yields. No one loves veterans more than President Trump, and he's made that apparent. That's why he's working for peace right now.
It's not your time.
I'm the chair of this committee.
That's not how
I'm the chair.
Parliamentary procedure works.
You're not recognized, Ms. Stansbury.
Why was Marjorie Taylor Greene slamming her gavel and shouting about veterans in the middle of a congressional hearing? And what pushed Congresswoman Jasmine Stanberry to the brink, forcing her to bring everything to a halt? This video breaks down the chaotic moment that turned a formal hearing into political theater, and wait until you see who unexpectedly stole the spotlight. But before we dive in, can I ask a quick favor? If you're enjoying this content, please hit the like button and subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It's free, takes just a second, and makes a huge difference for the channel. Already clicked it. Thank you. Now, let's get back to the drama.
Point of order.
Okay.
Point of order.
All right, Madam Chair, calm down. Let's move on.
Ms. Stansbury, you're not recognized. Point of order.
Madam Chair, I've got oh, I'm sorry, you had a point of order.
Oh, so,
go ahead.
Madam Chair, can we decide who's going to speak first and we don't?
Day, but that's not how
Ms. Stansbury, you're not recognized.
We're going to get you a Robert's
Ms.
Rules
Stansbury,
of Order
you're not.
Point of
Ms.
order.
Stansbury, you're not recognized.
Point of order.
Understand parliamentary procedure.
Absolutely, I'm the chair of this committee, and Mr.
I know that,
Mr. Gill from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Imagine a congressional hearing where governance takes a back seat to shouting matches, and right in the middle of it all is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Picture her wielding a gavel like it's a prop in a political stage play, tossing out parliamentary rules like they were unwanted guests at her party. That's the scene we're diving into, a perfect storm of grandstanding, frustration, and disbelief. Greene wasn't just participating, she was dominating. Every few minutes, there she was, banging the gavel and cutting people off like it was her own personal talk show. And no matter the topic at hand, she always managed to steer the conversation back to one thing: veterans. Over and over, she claimed to be their loudest advocate even when it had little to do with what was actually being discussed. Say what you will, but it takes serious energy to hijack a hearing like that. Just don't expect Congresswoman Jasmine Stanberry to be impressed. She looked visibly done with the spectacle, and honestly, who could blame her?
To continue to live through chaos and destruction that has been occurring ever since he swore in January. And I hope y'all remember who caused this, because it wasn't
the gentlelady's time has expired.
Also the Congressional Republicans.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
And last I checked, congressional approval is not, and I think that bears witness.
Madam Chair, I have a unanimous consent.
Without objection.
Thank you so much.
I now recognize Mr. Burchett from Tennessee.
Thank you, Chair Lady. I would remind members of both sides of the aisle that President Trump's approval rating is.
While Democrats on the panel made sincere attempts to steer the conversation back to reality, it was like trying to herd cats, except these cats were yelling about government overreach and patriotism. Marjorie Taylor Greene, in particular, turned the hearing into a spectacle of interruptions and theatrical grandstanding. One of her many disruptions included a spontaneous rant about how Democrats allegedly don't care about veterans. It came out of nowhere, derailing a discussion that had nothing to do with veterans. It wasn't a policy argument. It was performance art, the political equivalent of grabbing a mic and shouting, "Are you not entertained?" Congresswoman Jasmine Stanberry, however, wasn't buying the act. As Greene's antics escalated, Stanberry's responses grew sharper. At one point, she explicitly called out Greene's behavior for what it was: disruptive, damaging, and devoid of any meaningful contribution. Her frustration was palpable. Then came the moment that shifted the room. Stanberry pointed out, without any grand dramatics, that yelling about veterans isn't the same as helping them. And just like that, the atmosphere changed. Greene, now framed as the antagonist of the hearing, kept shouting, unfazed. But the energy had clearly shifted. Say what you will about Greene, but her commitment to staying on brand, even if it means torching the room around her, is oddly consistent. The louder she gets, the more convinced she seems that she's winning. But for all the noise, this was only the appetizer in a hearing that was about to spiral even further. Just when things couldn't get any more off the rails, Congressman Tim Burchett decided it was time to talk about Donald Trump's approval ratings. Because why not? It wasn't a campaign rally, but you wouldn't have known it. That's when Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett stepped in, and she was done playing along. With her signature sharp wit and no-nonsense delivery, she asked the question on everyone's mind: what the hell are you talking about? It wasn't just a mic drop moment, it was the collective sentiment of anyone still trying to make sense of how they'd gone from a policy hearing to debating Trump's popularity like it was The Apprentice, DC edition. Crockett didn't stop. At calling it out, she demanded receipts. If Burchett was going to throw around claims about Trump's soaring approval, then she wanted real numbers on the record. Spoiler, those numbers were not soaring. In fact, they were some of the worst in modern presidential history. This is what you call soaring? Crockett asked, incredulously. It's like trying to sell a soggy sandwich as gourmet cuisine. Crockett versus MAGA math. What Crockett did next was more than just a rebuttal. It was a reality check. She exposed the deeper issue at play, a tendency not just to misread data, but to invent it entirely. Burchett's claim wasn't just wrong, it was part of a pattern. A fantasy-fueled version of politics where facts are optional and feelings take center stage. Democrats on the panel echoed her frustration, backing up her call for reality-based discussion. Republicans, meanwhile, offered no counter-argument, just silence. When faced with hard numbers, even the loudest talking points couldn't hold up. Then came RFK Jr. and the dystopian Fitbit plan. As if things weren't bizarre enough, RFK Jr. stepped in with a proposal that had head spinning. The man who built his platform warning Americans about big pharma, big tech, and big government unveiled his big idea for the future: mandatory health tracking wearables for every American. Yes, really, the irony wasn't lost on anyone. MAGA Republicans who spent years warning that Democrats were plotting to track citizens through vaccine passports and face masks suddenly had nothing to say about RFK Jr.'s Big Brother-inspired plan. Congresswoman Nanette Berrigan pounced on the contradiction, grilling RFK Jr. not just on the wearable devices, but on his proposed $1.7 billion cut to the National Institute on Aging, the agency leading research on Alzheimer's, a disease he claims to care deeply about. So track your health, but don't expect any funding to treat it. Congressman Raul Ruiz followed up, pointing out another major flaw. RFK Jr.'s data didn't just miss the market, often didn't exist. His supporting evidence fell apart under even mild scrutiny, revealing a proposal held together with buzzwords and duct tape. Hypocrisy on display. Silence in response throughout RFK Jr.'s testimony. GOP members who might have used the opportunity to ask hard questions or distance themselves from the chaos instead said nothing. It was a masterclass in selective outrage. When Democrats suggest public health measures, it's tyranny. When RFK Jr. proposes government-approved health monitors, crickets. The hearing, at this point, wasn't even pretending to be coherent. It was a circus, and RFK Jr. was just the latest act. The curtain falls by the end. What stood out most wasn't just the absurdity of the proposals or the volume of the shouting. It was the stark contrast in how reality was handled. Democrats brought receipts, data, and direct questions. Republicans clung to talking points, dodged accountability, and stayed eerily silent when the contradictions got too obvious to ignore. Whether it was Greene's constant interruptions, perched Pulp Fiction, or RFK Jr.'s surveillance wearable pitch, the hearing exposed a movement less interested in truth and more invested in performance. And that's the big takeaway. For all the noise, the spectacle, the clashing personalities, this wasn't just political dysfunction. It was a window into the deeper problem, a politics of fiction colliding with a reality that won't go away just because you shout over it.